Mic check, mic check. Alright, now long story short, in this video we learn about page queries and how to use them. Now, as already mentioned several times, inside our Gatsby website we can use all kinds of Gatsby plugins. Now in this video we're going to use the Gatsbysource file system plugin to integrate with our local file system. Or in other words, we will use this plugin to talk to our local file system. But before we do that, let's go to our project and let's create a new folder called content, like this. And inside here we create a new folder called blogs, like this. And then inside this blogs folder we will create 3 files. So the first one is the intro-blog.md, and the second one is the second-blog.md, and the last one is of course the watch-up-blog.md, like this. Now for the ones who don't know, MD files that you see here let you format text using markdown. And markdown is a markup language that uses special syntax to add special formatting to your text elements. Now it is very easy to learn, you can Google a bit for it. We don't dive into the markdown syntax here. Be aware that we don't specify any content in these blog files. In this video we'll do that in an upcoming video. Alright, let's now configure this Gatsbysource file system plugin that we see here in the documentation. Now the first thing that you need to do is you need to use this command to install the Gatsbysource file system plugin. Now we have already installed this in the previous video, so we won't do it here again. And yeah, as you see, when we go to our package.json, we see that this plugin is installed. So yeah, if you haven't installed this plugin yet, then yeah, simply execute this command. And of course you need to execute this in the directory where your project lives. So in our case, our project lives inside this directory here. Alright, now the only thing we need to do is that we need to configure this Gatsbysource plugin. So in order to do that, we simply go to our project and we go to the gatsby-config file. Now let's close everything else. Alright, and then we go to our plugins array, and here we will specify a new plugin. So we create a new object like this. And yeah, this object takes a resolve field. And then we specify the name of the plugin. So we say Gatsby-source-file system, because as you remembered, that's the name of our plugin. Now secondly, this object takes another object which has the name options, like this. And yet in here we must specify a name. In our case this will be blogs. Yeah, this name is basically to separate stuff. So when we have, for instance, an image folder here, so inside this content folder we also have an image folder next to the blogs folder. Yeah, then we can use this name to separate stuff. But for now, this isn't important. And then we need to specify a path. Or in other words, we must specify a directory where our files live, because this enables the plugin to get these specific files. And yeah, the syntax for this is backticks. And then we say $sign, curly braces, and then we say __ name. And then we simply specify our path, so that will be /content for the content folder, and then /blogs for the blogs folder. So this is pretty straightforward. So again, this tells the plugin where the files live. And yeah, what this basically does is that it pulls these files inside this directory here into our GraphQL data layer. Now if you want to know more about this GraphQL data layer, then you should watch the 4th video if you haven't already done that. Alright, so after this configuration stuff we are able to query for the file names. So let's go to GraphQL. Now we can simply query the files by going to this all file field. And then we go to notes and let's query the ID and the name. Now, if we execute this, then we don't see anything yet. And that's because we need to restart our Gatsby server. So as already mentioned in the other videos, if we do some changes in the gatsby-config file, then we need to restart our development server. So yeah, the new plugin is actually used. So let's do that. So we simply close this one via Ctrl+C, and then we type in Gatsby develop again. And let's start this bad boy. Alright, so we restarted the development server. Now let's go back to our GraphQL playground. And if we now execute the same query again, then bam, we see that we get some data back. And yeah, these are exactly the files that we just created in the content/blogs folder. Alright, now let's use this query. So therefore we can simply go to our code explorer, or exporter I mean. And yeah, this time we want a page query, so the one here. And yeah, again, we can simply copy this code here. And then we go to our blogs page. So the one here, this index.js. Let's close this one. And also this one here on the side, so we have a nice view. Alright, now let's use this page query. Now, if you watched video number 5, where we use the useStatic query, then you know that that query is placed here inside our component. However, this page query bad boy is placed outside the component. So yeah, we basically place it right here. And then what is important is that we import this GraphQL thing, which we also explained in an earlier video. So yeah, therefore we simply copy this import statement right here. We go to our index.js file and we paste it in here. So now we have almost everything ready. However, we haven't fulfilled all these steps yet. So how does this work? Well, when Gatsby sees an exported GraphQL query here inside this file, it knows that it has to run this query. And this query, of course, returns data. Now Gatsby then gets the data and put it into our page component as a data prop. So the only thing we need to do here is that we need to specify this data prop like this. And yeah, this enables us to get this data here inside this blogs page component. So let's simply log this to see what we got. There's the got. And then the data. And yeah, then we simply go to the browser, then we go to the blogs page, and then let's go to developer tools. Let's go to the console, and then in here we see that we get all the files that we have specified in the content/blogs folder. So yeah, we basically get the same as we saw in our GraphQL query. So again, to summarize, since there is some Gatsby magic going on here behind the scenes, so when Gatsby sees an exported GraphQL query like this inside our page component, or inside this page component file, I mean, yeah, then Gatsby knows that it has to run this query, and it passes the result that this query returns into our blogs page component that we see here as a data prop. And yeah, then we can simply use this data prop inside our blogs page component. So what we can now do is that, let's say here, and we place this inside curly braces, then we say data, and then all file. I think that's the path, so let's go here. Yeah, so we have data, all file, and then nodes. So all file dot nodes, and then we simply loop over all the files. So we have the node like this, and then we simply return a list item with a key node.id. So that's the ID that we see here. And then inside here we simply print the name of the file like this. So if we now go to the browser, we close this, we refresh it, then yeah, we see, let's zoom in a bit because it's pretty small, then we see the name of our files. Alright, so yeah, we have configured the file system plugin, we have created the page query and used the data inside our blogs page component, but we want more. Now, currently these MD files, they don't have any content. So in the next video we will add some content to our MD files and we will present this content in our Gatsby site. So I see you in the next video.